Hello everyone, this is Jeremy with Coding Contraptions, and tonight I was working on having this project I'm working on that's going to do vector addition. Just show the initial vectors as they get put in. There's some math involved because in a Cartesian coordinate system, normally you start here, and this is 0, 0, but when you use the canvas, it actually starts in the top left-hand corner, and then it goes down and to the right. So your first number is going to be how far across it is, and then how far down. So anyway, so that's how that works. It's not a typical Cartesian coordinate system. So the middle right here is actually 500, 500 instead of 0, 0. So that took some math to figure that out. Also, so the coding was pretty intense, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. It only took about an hour, which I thought it would probably take more time. So I use this function called show initial vectors. It takes the number of vectors there, comes down, and it gets each individual input, right? Get the vector direction, the vector magnitude, and then it comes down here and it did a console log just to show what was going on behind the scenes, so I could take a look each time I ran the code. And then the part I worked on the most is this draw line function. So this actually skips down here, and it takes in the direction and the magnitude. It moves to the center. Then it calculates radians, right? Because everything is in radians for the math functions in JavaScript. So the input's going to be in degrees. It's going to convert it to radians just because the math here for math.cosine and math.sine is in radians. So it calculates those two things there for the x and the y direction. Breaks it down, a little physics there, very basic physics. Anyway, it's part of physics. It's actually more trigonometry, but anyway, be that as it may. So then it shows the console log. It shows x is, and it gives x in the y directions. And then down here, this is where it actually takes into account, instead of being a 0, 0, it actually has a 500, 500. This is the math that takes care of that portion of the project. So then after that, it comes down here, draws the lines to each individual thing, and then it creates a line, and then it resets each time and goes back to the center for each individual line. So that is the basics of the code. It came out pretty good. I went ahead and set it up so that each and every vector has a magnitude of 250, and then it increments by 10 degrees. And so so it's going to show one at 10 degrees, one at 20 degrees, one at 30 degrees. It's going to go ahead and make a big circle of lines. So as you can see, direction 10, magnitude 250. And then as I go down here, I'll show vectors, and I'll clean this up as I go. This is just the basics. And so it creates this nice design that is exactly what I wanted. Again, I'll work on this more. These lines aren't showing yet because they're matching the Cartesian coordinate system. There are also going to be arrows on the end of these by the time I'm done. At least that's the plan. So there's still some more work to go. But let's take a look at the console down here. So I have it showing each and every one of these starting at 0. So 0 is actually all this information here. It has input direction 10, input magnitude 250. It shows where x and y are going to be on this chart here. So x is going to be at 246, y is 243 if it was 0, 0. I went ahead and did that calculation. So x is 246, y is 43 is going to be right there. And the next one's going to be your actually second one, because the count starts at 0. So x is going to be 234, a little bit shorter, and y is going to be 85. That's going to be this line right here. So it goes around and it creates all of them. So it's working well. Everything looks like it's working perfectly well. Anyway, so the next step is to clean it up, right? I have some cleanup to do. I'm going to go ahead and try to get some arrows on these. And also, I'm going to calculate the final result. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that yet. I may just put it off here to the right. We'll see. There's some more work to be done. But for a first stab at all this, first time using Canvas, it came out looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. A lot of room to go, though. This is definitely not set for a final user, but just the process alone has been invaluable, just learning how JavaScript works. It's much different than I had expected. I guess I can go into that a little bit. Everything in JavaScript seems to follow a 3-step process so far. And so What it seems like is that there's kind of an initialization, a queue that you can do, or that you do to get things started. In my case, I'm using buttons. So you got buttons that on when you click on them, they run a function. That's how mine works. And so there's that one there, and then the same thing button on click, and that's actually to show the vectors. The first one is to get the number of vectors, as you can see on the page here. Got your number of vectors button there, and then your show vectors button down there. So there's a queue, and the queue typically will run a function down beneath somewhere below. So this is actually down below. The script always is beneath everything else because you need to declare all your tags so the script actually knows what to grab above. I won't go into too much on that, but your script should always be at the bottom. And as you can see, there's these different functions I already have. This runs every time. This just sets up the canvas with the background Cartesian coordinates. But then everything else is functions, right? So I want that script to run every time, but then the functions are dependent on a button click or a function calling a function at this point. So I guess the second step is that you have a queue, which is the button. Then you get the function down here. And the third step is this function is going to act on your code, your HTML, or it's going to do internal calculations. But typically it's grabbing something from the HTML and modifying it. And that is done by using this document.getElementById. So you have to give it an ID up above, and then, for example, this ID is numVectors form. So if you're going to grab that form, you would do document.getElementById vectors form dot value if you're just looking for value or whatever. If you just don't use a value to grab everything, if you want to do something in particular, you have to grab a value or the name or what. I know you just have to grab each individual piece that you want to work on. So anyway, learning a lot, interesting process, still a long way to go. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. I know these videos maybe aren't as entertaining because it's just I've been doing a lot of math and calculation trying to get things to work in the background, which is not the point of the videos. That's more the physics end. The point of the videos is to just show how the code actually works in my coding journey. And so hopefully this helps to I don't know, to log some of that, to create some type of a journal. Okay, everybody, well, take care. Hope you're having a great day, and thanks for listening to the end. Probably a little dry today, but still incredibly interesting and a long way to go in this process.